Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing details. Today, we're discussing a watch that showcases just how much value you can get from Blancpain. One of the flagship luxury brands of the Swatch Group, Blancpain went out of business in the late 70s, only to be resurrected by Jean-Claude Biver and the manufacturer Frédéric Piguet in the early 1980s, rebuilding itself as an haute de gamme mechanical watch source. It gained enough credibility that Swatch purchased it to become the flagship brand in 1992. But since the late 90s, it's been best known as a purveyor of dive watches, as the historic 50 Fathoms model has sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Well, I'm here to tell you that the fine, complicated watches for which the company was known in the 80s and on the basis of which it was revived, those watches are still very much around. This is a great example of it. It is the Blancpain Leman Flyback Chronograph Perpetual calendar. It is all of those things in a 40mm rose gold case. It measures 14.3 millimeters thick and a delightfully compact 44.8 millimeters from lug to lug with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now, if this watch were made by Patek Philippe or a Lange & Söhne, it would probably cost multiples of what it does. But I'm going to show you that you don't suffer for quality or for features by going with a Blancpain. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, it wears nicely, partly because the lugs are so short across the wrist. You can pull this off on a wrist as small as 14 centimeters circumference. Really, the only limit is that it has a little bit of thickness to it and considerable weight, so you wouldn't want to wear it on a truly petite wrist, but this is definitely viable down to 14 centimeters. And although it's not thin, you can see the double-stepped slope of the bezel actually gives it some viability with a tighter dress cuff. The strap is a high grade of leather. We know this because it's a large rectangular scale, symmetrical scale alligator leather, black matte finish monotone stitch, a sheer cut side, and then on the bottom, rubber inlays. Just wonderful because it's super supple against the wrist, but it also helps to improve the longevity of the leather by isolating the leather from the moisture, heat, sweat, and grit of the wrist. And you can see this is a brand new Blancpain factory strap. We have here a folding clasp. It's friction fit and nicely made, as you can see, internally branded, full polish, rose gold. And the idea behind a deployant clasp is that it creates a loop around your wrist, so it's harder to accidentally drop your watch when you're donning it or removing it. Now, taking a quick look, you can see how the strap feeds into the clasp and then tucks under, so there's no need for minder loops, and all the excess length is hidden underneath the strap body. Taking a quick look here, you can see that the case is simple but strong. With the lugs broken out from the mid case, they're not integrated Portuguese or Calatrava style. And of course, Blancpain reminds you who made this little masterpiece. Everything is polished. It's got an upscale look. You see pusher adjusters all the way around for the calendar complications. We do have screw down chronograph pushers and screw down crown here. And this watch is actually 80 meters water resistant. So on a different kind of strap, just swap out, you could actually go swimming with this watch. And you can see they make that easy by including strap tool holes in the flanks of these teardrop lugs. Taking a quick look, we have a double gadroon or double domed bezel, flanking a dial that includes both matte and gloss finishes. We have outboard applique indices with lume. Inboard of that, we have rose gold faceted applique hour indices, rose gold hands skeletonized for hours and minutes so as not to block the calendar complications. We have a couple of coaxial registers. We have the month of the perpetual calendar coaxial with the leap year display. We have the date coaxial with the chronograph minutes. We have the chronograph hours coaxial with the day. And then, of course, we have that moon phase. Perpetual calendar, so it doesn't need to be touched until the year 2100. It can deal with irregular length months. It can deal with leap years. And it is a flyback chronograph, so you can reset and restart without first stopping. I mentioned this watch is full of features, so we've got a flyback chronograph moon phase perpetual calendar with automatic winding. It's even fairly well loomed for something that is, for the most part, a dress watch. It's a fairly sporty dress watch, and you can see even the chrono seconds hand has been loomed for legibility in the dark. The moon phase is a 122-year adjustment, so whereas you don't have to touch the calendar system till the year 2100, you actually don't have to touch the moon phase until 122 years after you set it. Flipping it all over, you can see that the movement is the F585. Based on the Frédéric Piguet 1185, this one includes the flyback capability as well as the perpetual calendar and moon phase. Frédéric Piguet was one of the two parties in the reestablishment of Blancpain during the 1980s, and when Swatch Group bought Blancpain, it also bought Frédéric Piguet to be manufacture Blancpain, or the movement manufacturer tied to this brand. So if you want to look at this as an in-house caliber, you absolutely can. Now you can see layered bridges with engine turning on the lower bridges. On the winding bridge, we actually have Geneva stripes. Then we have beautiful mirrored anglage on the edge of the bridges. We have both polished and fired blued screws, so we have both of those, as well as stripes on the rotor itself. There's satination on the wheels, black polish on the column wheel of the chronograph, and you can see that has a blued screw at its center. It's adjusted in 5 positions, which is the high horology and chronometer standard, all of this pivoting on 35 joules, and it has a 40-hour power reserve beating away at 3 hertz or 6 beats per second. Now, it has a column wheel and a vertical clutch. The column wheel is a very traditional and time-tested method of building a high-end luxury chronograph, and the crispness of the feel is what draws collectors to column wheels. Now, the smoothness is what draws them to vertical clutches. You can see when I start this chrono, there's no stagger or jump to the seconds hand. That's because a vertical clutch engagement, unlike a lateral clutch, is seamless. Also, there's no additional wear and tear because, again, there's no gear tooth meshing with a vertical clutch system, so you can just leave it running full time if you want to have running seconds at center. The movement is beautiful, the watch is gorgeous, the complication is formidable, and the value is undeniable. This watch is simply packed with all of them. Again, if this were Patek, it would cost multiples, and I can't say altogether that the quality or the features would even be better. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for pricing.